I'm Susan.
I'm Dinushka. Baking is one of my biggest passions.
I love mixing and matching flavors.
It is something that brings me a lot of joy.
Everything I prepare is free of artificial flavoring and coloring.
We want to share these bakes with as many people as possible. Welcome to this episode of Homemade.
Hope you enjoyed this episode today. I never imagined I was going to be a baker myself. And honestly speaking, I don't even know how I got here. Everything I prepare is free of artificial flavoring and coloring, and making my customers happy is what keeps me going. Hi guys, I'm Susan from Cravings by Sue, and I'll be making the traditional milk toffee today. What we'll need for this is 1 tin of condensed milk and 250 grams of cashew nuts and 500 grams of white sugar and 2 tablespoons of butter. So firstly, we open the tin of condensed milk and we pour it into a mixing bowl like this. It's a bit tricky taking it all out, but then try and get everything in because you need the whole tin in. And the next step is you put this sugar into it. You add the sugar into the milk, condensed milk, and then you mix it. Well, actually you can do this in a pan directly, or you can actually use a mixing bowl and then move it to a pan as well. Once it's mixed, you transfer it to the pan and we take it to the cooker to actually cook it. Just make sure you scrape everything off the mixing bowl to the pan, and you can actually use half a cup of water just to get the rest out of the pan, the mixing bowl. Okay, so now this is ready to go to the cooker, and we need to cook it for about 45 to 50 minutes. Once the milk and the sugar is put into the bowl, you add the butter and the cashew just before you take the pan off the fire. So we place it on the cooker, and then you start stirring it non-stop until it gets thick and light brown. You can see it bubbling now and getting a bit thick. It's very important that you keep in mind that you have to stir it. You can't stop, because if you stop, it's going to start burning from the bottom and caramelizing the milk toffees. At this point, you can see it's a bit light brown and it has thickened up. You just add the 2 tablespoons of butter to it. And keep on stirring until the butter gets incorporated with the milk mixture. You keep stirring it until it comes into this thickness, right? And it comes off the pan. You'll see it coming off the pan. If you get closer, you'll just see it coming off the pan. And then that's the time you need to add the cashew into it. You just add all the cashew at once and keep stirring a bit more. Once it's all stirred together and mixed together, as you can see, it just comes off the pan. You just take it off the cooker immediately and take it and place it on the tray. You can see it coming off the pan now. You take it and place it, you actually spill it all onto the tray that you're going to cut the pieces. Be very careful guys, because this is extremely hot, so it could actually burn you if it gets onto your skin. and you evenly spread this mixture on the pan that you cut. Just be careful when you're doing it. Make sure it doesn't get to your skin. Once it's placed on your tray, you keep it for 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes actually, because it needs to get a bit cool and harden to cut the milk toffees off. And I usually use this. I know it doesn't look the greatest, but this is a cake tray that you can find anywhere in Colombo. This is a 2x2 cutter. What I do is usually once it's a bit dry and once it's a bit cool, I just place it on top and just mark my pieces. Just press it down a bit before it gets too hard, and I just mark the pieces and take this off. Once I mark the pieces, I keep it for another 10 minutes to cut the pieces off, because it's a bit too hot and it's also a bit too raw to cut it off. Hi, I'm Susan.
I'm Dinushka. Baking is one of my biggest passions.
I love mixing and matching flavors.
It is something that brings me a lot of joy.
Everything I prepare is free of artificial flavoring and coloring.
We want to share these bakes with as many people as possible. Welcome to this episode of Homemade.
Hope you enjoyed this episode today. I never imagined I was going to be a baker myself, and honestly speaking, I don't even know how I got here. Everything I prepare is free of artificial flavoring and coloring, and making my customers happy is what keeps me going. It's been about 15 minutes since I made it and marked it, and now actually it's time to cut it off and take the pieces out. So it's a little bit of a hard dough sort of thing, so you need to like put a little effort to it to cut it off. And once you mark it, it's actually easy. You just run the knife through the marks. So once it's cooled off, you can actually take piece by piece and place it on a presentation plate or wherever you want actually. There you go. So this is the famous nut toffees that everyone talks about. Once it's placed on your tray, you can just grab a piece and then, you know, try it out. It's like nutty, creamy, sweet, and if you're a fan of sweet milk, nutty, this is the best medicine for you. See you again on another episode of Homemade. This is Susan from Cravings by Sue.
Baking is something I was introduced to from a very small age. My sister and I used to bake with our mother and our grandmother, and it was something that we did as kind of an activity to keep us occupied as children. So we used to bake cookies with our grandmother and also help Ammi when she was baking cakes and eat most of the batter most of the time. So that was something that we were introduced to, as I said before, from a very early age, and it's something that we loved from a very early age, and something which has now grown into one of my biggest passions, and also it's something I do with my sister as well. So together it is one of our biggest passions. Hi, I'm Dinushka and I'm from Bola's Bake Shop. Welcome to today's episode of Homemade. Today we will be making almond shortbread cookies. It's a pretty easy recipe. You need 50 grams of corn flour, 100 grams of plain flour. You need 50 grams of icing sugar and 100 grams of salted butter. In terms of essences, you need vanilla essence and you also need a little bit of almond essence. So it's a recipe that you can double if you want more quantity. So yes, in terms of mixing, you need a food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can also use a hand beater or an electric stand mix. You need to just blitz everything together. So you first put all the dry ingredients in and then just make sure that you blitz it well. The lid is tightly put. And then you need to put in your salted butter, so that's 100 grams of butter, and blitz it. Yeah, so that needs a little more. So at this point you can add your essences. So that's about a teaspoon of vanilla extract and about a half a teaspoon of almond extract. You want to make sure that you don't put too much almond extract because then that can be a bit unpleasant. So the balance of the almond needs to be good. And it's as easy as that. Then your dough is formed. Thereafter you need to just turn this onto a cling film and make it into a disc and make sure you put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes to an hour. Thereafter, you get the dough.
Hi, I'm Susan.
I'm Dinushka. Baking is one of my biggest passions.
I love mixing and matching flavors.
It is something that brings me a lot of joy.
Everything I prepare is free of artificial flavoring and coloring.
We want to share these bakes with as many people as possible. Welcome to this episode of Homemade.
Hope you enjoyed this episode today.
Baking is something I was introduced to from a very small age. My sister and I used to bake with our mother and our grandmother, and it was something that we did as kind of an activity to keep us occupied as children. So we used to bake cookies with our grandmother and also help Ammi when she was baking cakes and eat most of the batter most of the time. So that was something that we were introduced to, as I said before, from a very early age, and it's something that we loved from a very early age, and something which has now grown into one of my biggest passions, and also it's something I do with my sister as well. So together it is one of our biggest passions. So then you take the dough out of the fridge, so it should have been in there for about 30 to 60 minutes. You need to lightly flour your surface. Take maybe not the whole of your dough, but part of your dough, and just roll it out half a centimeter's thickness because you don't want it to be too thin. Then you can use whatever shapes of the cutters you need. So you just need to cut those out. It's as easy as that. So in terms of baking time, you need to bake the cookies for about 8 to 10 minutes. I have a gas oven, so I usually keep it at gas mark 2. But if you have an electric oven, it's 150 Celsius, or that is 300 Fahrenheit. And as I said, you need to bake it for about 8 to 10 minutes, but you need to keep an eye on the oven because these cookies tend to bake very fast. And if they're slightly overbaked, then the consistency isn't right. So it's always good to make sure that you keep an eye on the oven, so set a time or something so that you don't forget it while engaged in your other work. So yeah, just pop it onto a tray and make sure that you bake it, and then it'll be ready to eat. So now our cookies have come out of the oven. As you can see, it should be that kind of golden brown color. So first I'll take the gingerbread man, and I am going to use this sugar paste also as a glue for my Smarties. So you can use whatever colors you like. I also prefer to use the smaller Smarties because the bigger ones just don't look proportionate. So it's always better to use the little small ones. And then we also need to give the gingerbread man some eyes. So again, I am using the sugar paste as a glue at this point, and I'm going to use some of these sugar draggies. You can also use the sugar draggies as in place them when the sugar cookies are raw, because these actually hold in the oven, they don't melt, unlike the Smarties and sugar sprinkles. So these can be placed on the cookies even before you put it in the oven. That is fine, and that also makes life easier for you. Thereafter, we're going to do the butterfly, and the butterfly you can use whatever colors you like. I think I'm going to do a pink. Yes, I think I'll do a pink in the center. So again, you can do whatever you like. You can use whatever colors you like: green, blue, turquoise. So again, you can be as neat or as messy as you like depending on the occasion. So I like to use a small paintbrush. I like using these colored sprinkles, sugar sprinkles. And finally, we have the flower. Again, you can use whatever. You can use multiple colors, you can use a single color, whatever you like. That doesn't look very neat, but don't worry, we can neaten it up. Again, this sugar paste is very easy to work with. And for this, I think I might use some of the colored sugar draggies and just place them around. Again, you can go as nuts as you like with the decorations. So it's as easy as that, and those are the cookies decorated. Again, you can use whatever you like. So those are our almond shortbread cookies, very nicely decorated. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Homemade. We hope to catch you soon on another episode.